Welcome to this explainer. Look, every software app out there has an architecture. Sometimes it's carefully designed and, well, sometimes it just happens entirely by accident. Today, we're going to cut through the fashionable tech buzzwords and zero in on what actually matters, making the right engineering trade-offs for your specific problem. Because by the end of this, you'll know exactly how to structure your system so they can actually evolve safely.
Real quick, here is our game plan to navigate this whole landscape. We'll kick things off with the accidental architecture problem, then we'll see why monoliths aren't always bad, dodge the microservices complexity trap, unpack event-driven and serverless systems, figure out how to protect your business logic, and finally, wrap up with preserving your architecture options.
All right, let's jump straight into part 1, the accidental architecture problem.
You know, a lot of us are taught to think architecture is just, drawing boxes and arrows on a whiteboard, but it's so much deeper than diagrams. True architecture is really about structure, boundaries, and trade-offs. It's about how your components actually talk to each other and exactly where your core business logic lives. So I want you to ask yourself right now, was your system designed intentionally or accidentally? Because honestly, whether you plan it or not, your system's architecture is the ultimate deciding factor in whether your app is a breeze to update or an absolute nightmare to maintain. You see this all the time, right? A founder wants an MVP, developers prioritize speed, a database gets spun up, logic gets tossed wherever it fits, and suddenly, the system has a life of its own.
And if you're dealing with duplicated logic or those terrifying deployments where every single tweak breaks something entirely unrelated, you might just be stuck in what we call a big ball of mud. When architecture happens by accident, everything depends on everything else. It's pure chaos. Database queries are scattered everywhere, making deployments incredibly risky. And new devs? Forget about it. It takes them months to figure out how anything works because nobody actually knows where any specific rule lives.
Okay, let's move into part 2, where we are going to subvert some expectations. Monoliths aren't always bad.
Look, we've all been conditioned to worship at the altar of microservices. But let's be real, a well-structured monolith is an incredibly powerful tool. Because it's one single codebase deployed as one single unit, it is super simple to build, test, and operate. If you're a small team or building an early-stage product, a monolith is honestly for sure your absolute best choice. The problem is never really the monolith itself. It's the unstructured monolith.
And that brings us to the unsung hero of software design, the modular monolith. This gives you that beautiful, simple, single deployment, but internally, it is strictly divided into clear business modules. So your payments code isn't just tangled up in your courses code. You get the strict boundaries and easy maintainability without taking on the massive operational headache of a distributed system. It is literally the perfect bridge between a simple app and large-scale architecture.
But what happens when we do need to break things apart? That brings us to part 3, the microservices complexity trap.
Microservices split your app into small, independently deployable services, which sounds great, right? It gives teams immense autonomy. But man, it comes with immense costs. You're no longer just calling a function in the same codebase. You are communicating over a network, and networks fail. Requests time out. Debugging turns into an absolute nightmare, and keeping your data consistent is incredibly hard. Honestly, a badly designed microservices setup is way worse than a well-designed monolith because of all this intense distributed complexity. You only want this when your organization is massive enough to strictly need things like service discovery and rigid API contracts.
Moving on to part 4, event-driven and serverless systems. Let's talk about asynchronous communication and the cloud. When we start decoupling services, event-driven tools are our go-to. But you have to know the difference here. You use message queues, think RabbitMQ or SQS, when you just need to hand off some background work, like firing off an email. Once it's done, the message is gone. But you use event streams, like Kafka, when you need an ordered, replayable history of facts. Think financial transactions or analytics. If you mix these up and use the wrong tool, you're just asking for unnecessary complexity.
And then there's serverless. Shifting your infrastructure over to managed cloud services like AWS Lambda is amazing for handling variable traffic. But please do not fall for the no architecture myth. You are still making trade-offs. You're just swapping infrastructure management for things like vendor lock-in, potential cold starts, and some pretty fragmented observability.
All right, part 5, protecting your business logic. Let's look at how we keep our core rules from getting polluted.
Layered architecture is a total classic for a reason. Imagine an e-commerce checkout. The presentation layer takes the request, the application layer coordinates the steps, the domain layer checks your actual core business rules, like pricing, and the data access layer finally talks to the database. It is a clear, step-by-step flow. When every single developer knows exactly where a piece of code belongs, maintaining the system becomes incredibly structured and predictable.
Want to take that protection even further? Enter clean and hexagonal architectures. These patterns literally flip traditional dependencies on their head. They forced your core business rules into the absolute center of everything. Your frameworks, your UI, your external databases, those are just treated as interchangeable implementation details that hook in through distinct ports and adapters. So your business logic never directly depends on a tool like Stripe or Postgres. It makes your app insanely robust and super easy to test in isolation.
Finally, part 6, preserving your architecture options. Let's talk extreme scale and evolving safely.
Out in the wild, you're going to hear about highly specialized patterns. CQRS, which separates data reads from writes. Event sourcing, which stores a history of events rather than just the current state. Super common in banking. Or space-based architecture, using in-memory grids for massive scale. But here is the major catch. These are strictly for heavy-duty, highly unique problems. They introduce massive complexity and are absolutely not for your everyday web app.
Let's make this hyper-practical. An architect's job isn't to just memorize patterns. It's to match the pattern to the business problem you have right now. Building an MVP? Keep it simple. Use a monolith. Growing a SaaS product? Evolve that into a modular monolith. Need a massive data processing platform? Okay, now you look at serverless and event streams. Your architecture is completely contextual.
Before we finish up, we have to call out some fatal mistakes. The absolute biggest one, copying Netflix or Google on day one when you literally do not have their scale of problems. Also, just making a bunch of neat folders does not mean you have an architecture if your code dependencies are still a total mess. And if you ignore operations, if you can't easily deploy or monitor your system, your architecture is just incomplete. I want to leave you with this final thought. Architecture is less about predicting the future and more about preserving options. Good architecture is meant to evolve. You start with a monolith, you modularize it, maybe later you pull out a few microservices. You don't have to predict every single requirement on day one. You just need to create clear boundaries that give you the freedom to evolve without getting trapped. So look at the system you're building right now. Are you locking yourself in, or are you keeping your options open? Thanks for checking out this explainer, and good luck out there.